out there on YouTube. I am Robert Solomon. Welcome to another edition of the Games of 90. This time out, we're going to take a look at two shows that got revived. Both were powerhouses in syndication in the late 70s and early 80s, before Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy came along and pretty much destroyed everything in its path. Now, we'll be talking about these two revivals, one now and one next month, but the one we're talking about this month is Jack Barry's magnum opus, reimagined by his second-in-command Richard S. Klein and son Jonathan Barry. It's the return of The Joker's Wild.
Welcome back to the game where knowledge is king and Lady Luck is queen. It's the return of The Joker's Wild. Now, here's your host, Pat Finn.
Hi. Welcome. Hey, welcome. Thank you. Okay. It's great to have you here and great to have you watching at home once again.
The Joker's Wild is a revival of the classic game by Jack Barry, reinvented by his son Jonathan and former number 2 at Jack Barry Productions, Richard S. Klein. This new version, hosted by then game show newcomer Pat Finn, changed up the format of the classic game and transformed it into a more cerebral game with a new bonus game that didn't rely on the classic bonus game formula that had become a trope in all of Jack Barry and Dan Enright's shows. Sadly, this version didn't catch on and was canceled 1 year afterwards, thanks to a mix of poor time slots, deviating too wildly from the original show that had alienated original fans of the show, and of course, being paired up with the vastly inferior Tic-Tac-Dough revival hosted by Patrick Wayne. So for this video and the next video that we're going to take a side-by-side look at the original show and the revival to see what the revival did right and also what the revival did wrong. Let's get everything started with the hosts.
Now, here's the host of our show, Jack Barry. Thank you very much, and welcome once again to the Joker's Wild. On our last program, we found a brand new champions who had amazing luck. And now, here's the host of the show, Bill Cullen. Hi there. Thank you all. Hello there. Thank you all. Hello, welcome to the Joker's Wild. We're happy to have you with us, and this is the conclusion of the second week of our 9th season, my second season. It's nice of you to be watching us. Thank you very kindly.
The original was hosted by the show's creator and Jack Barry, and later on by Bill Cullen after Jack's untimely passing in 1984. Both hosts were the consummate professionals when it came to the business, and I liked what both brought to the table, especially Jack. If he didn't get the show off the ground, he would only be remembered for the scandals, which do come off as more of Dan Enright's doing than his. Although if I have to point out flaws, it's that when we got to Bill Cullen's hosting, his age really started to show. I remember a few episodes of the final season only be able to get one full game in before calling it a day, and that's not even having the main game go into overtime when both break 500 and tie in proper turn. There's not much I could say about both Jack and Bill. Both of them are great, and they did the show justice.
Now, here's your host, Pat Finn.
Okay, welcome. Yeah, look at this. Welcome. Thank you. Great audience. Thank you. Welcome to our show. We are going to have fun today. That I promise, because we have 3 great contestants.
The host for the 1990 version is Pat Finn. While Pat is better known for doing Shot to Drop and Big Spin, Pat showed off his hosting chops with this game, and I quite like his style with the game, given what he had to work with and given some of the games could stretch beyond belief. We'll get to that in a minute. Sadly, with the format, Pat could come off as robotic. But was this a downgrade from Jack and Bill? Let's face it, any host they could have thrown on there would have been a downgrade from Jack and Bill. But that's not to say they got this wrong. Pat was good for what he was given, and the contestants and the audience seemed to like his enthusiasm. I also like how Pat also built up the same drama that Jack did with the Joker chants and showed genuine emotions when somebody did break that Joker's jackpot. So now let's get into the gameplay of the shows. We're going to break this up into 2 rounds, the front game and the end game. Let's get started with the front game.
After this long trip from Chicago, here are the categories that'll be used in the game. They are the mystery category, take it and you'll get double, followed by composers. Then we have Where Am I? Disney, and finally, News 76. Challenger goes first.
The classic version had 2 contestants spin a gigantic slot machine in order to determine what category they play in for how much. The single category then was worth $50, a pair is worth $100, and a triple is worth $200, plus a prize if it was the same 3 categories on the reels, or an actual triple jackpot if it was in the later seasons. A correct answer adds money to their score, whereas a wrong answer allowed their opponent a shot and steal the money. There are jokers on the reels, and they can be made into any category the contestant chooses. The first contestant to reach $500 in proper turn, or gets 3 jokers and answers 1 question correctly, wins the game and goes on to the bonus game. It's a straightforward format and easy to get a grasp of. That's why the show lasted for a long time in the 70s and the 80s. Not only that, a really good game can take up to only about 7 minutes of the show, depending on who's hosting it, of course. The 90s version had 3 contestants. I'll let Pat Finn describe how it works now.
Spin and show you how it works. On the last one, there are also the very important jokers. Now, each spin decides the value of a correct answer. Here's how the game works. The Joker's Wild is a game of definitions. I'll give our contestants a word, a phrase, a person, or a place, and then they'll tell me what it means.
So we have a vast departure from the traditional format, as the contestants now spin dollar amounts, and the amount shown on the reels is how much each correct answer is worth. If a contestant gives a wrong answer, the other 2 can buzz in and gain control. The joker is now only on the 3rd reel, and if it pops up, the amount on the reel is tripled, and the contestants have 15 seconds to get as many right as they can before they miss one or when time runs out. The first of $500 ends round 1, and they say goodbye to the player with the least amount of money. Round 2 had the dollar amounts raised a little bit, but now the person controls offered a choice of categories. Unless the 3rd reel shows up opponent's choice, then the opponent gets to choose the category. The first person to reach $2,000 wins the game and plays the bonus game. I thought this was okay, but as some episodes prove, the game can drag on. If you get a bad matchup of questions and low values, especially. There's an episode on YouTube of one of the biggest champions in the show's history, in Donna McNeely. This episode was edited just horribly. They had to just to get everything down to 21 minutes so they could air it. It's worth checking out just to see the hatchet job they had to do with the editing. A couple episodes like this, especially when the first one could last for 8 or 9 minutes, created a change in the show starting around January 1991, when Pat came out and said this.
Great having you here today. Today especially, because today we're going to do something very special on the Joker's Wild. We've taken the best of the classic Joker's Wild and combined it with the new Joker game. Now we've joined the best of both worlds, and I hope you agree it's going to be great. First of all, let's meet our players here.
The second format now introduces the categories and jokers to the reels, much like the old days. But this time, a single's only worth $25, doubles worth $50, and triples are worth $100 per correct answer. Instead of 3 jokers ending the round with 1 correct answer, it's now worth $250 in bonus money, plus $100 for each correct answer in one of the 3 categories revealed afterwards. And instead of $500 ending round 1, $1,000 ends round 1, and $2,000 ends the game. While this format got more streamlined and easier to follow, the problem was that it took longer than the first format. Sometimes the game would take way too long that the bonus game would have to be played on the next episode. This ruined the launch of the new format because on the very first episode, that's exactly what happened. So no matter what, the front game was worse than the original, so they really got this wrong. Now let's take a look at the bonus game where everything is flipped. The original bonus game had quite a few variants, but the one most remembered is this one. The champion spins the reel in hopes to rack up $1,000 or more before the devil shows up. If the devil shows up, then they lose the money they had accumulated in the bonus game. If they reach that magical figure, then they win a prize package, somewhere between $3,500 and $4,500. It was brainless and started the trend you'd see in most Barry Enright games in get to X before hitting Y. Tic-Tac-Toe had this with the dragon, Bullseye had it with the lightning, Play the Percentages had it with the 0, and there are more from there. It's good, but it wore out its welcome over time, especially since they never raised the money of the prize packages. You can see a show from 1977 and still see the same values from 1986. The 1990s version had 2 parts. The first part had Pat reading off definitions, and the champion had to give the word that Pat was describing. For each correct answer, the champion got 1 spin on the Joker machine, and had 60 seconds to get as many as they could. I didn't mind this part, even if it solidified people's opinions on that Pat Finn was an automaton in a big layer of skin, because it was made up for in the second half where the winners took their spins to the Joker machine. All they had to do was match a prize within the 3 windows, and they would win that prize. The prizes range from cash from $500 to $2,000, various amounts of jewelry, furniture, electronics, trips, and the Jokers are there too. If a contestant in 1 spin got 3 of those Jokers, they would win the Joker's jackpot, which started at $5,000 and rose by $500 each time it wasn't won. I thought this was much better than the Barry Enright trip that was birthed by the original, but I must howl at one fact. You can win $2,000 in the front game, but can still win much, much less than in the end game. That should have been fixed by allowing contestants who still had spins left to use them to match more prizes or raise the value of the prizes. Either way, they still got the bonus game right. I'll quickly go through the presentation. The 70s and 80s version had the better music package. However, I do like the 90s set a lot better. So that's pretty much a wash right there. Now, do I still recommend the Joker's Wild from 1990? Of course. I like Joker's Wild from 1990. I thought it was a good show. It had the charm and a more cerebral game than that of the original and a better end game, but the viewers either couldn't find the show because it was buried in bad time slots, or when they did see it with the classic name, they didn't see a faithful revival in their eyes. If it had a different name, then they might have liked it better, but I doubt it would have sold at all. It's worth checking out on YouTube just to see Pat Finn being a good host before he became the host of Shop Till You Drop, and seeing his great banner with D.
Another fellow was going to do this.
Yeah, no, but he had to leave, Grandma. If you just need to
Are
step
you
in the
absolutely sure, Patrick?
Grandma, get in the box!
Yes, Patrick, it was.
Thank you very much.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the Games of 90. Next month, tic-tac-doe. Until then, goodbye, everyone.